struggle between the things. Hello, and really happy to be here as a representative of the European Commission. Normally, I wouldn't be here, but my boss would be. But unfortunately, today everyone had other commitments, so I was the third or fourth best choice. Okay. Yes. Basically, I will be one of the few presentations today, and my idea. Okay, better like this. Okay. Okay. So I will present the strategy, how it comes about. I'll give you a couple of short remarks about standardization, and then as I was telling as you colleague before, one of my favorite sentences is that standardization is like Hotel California. You check in, but you don't check out. For those of you who are old enough to remember the. So. Why standards matter? Because basically everything we have and everything we do is facilitated by standards. Here you see very technological products, but even something as stupid as your clothes size. All the women will know that a EU size is different from the Italian, which is different from the Spanish, which is different from the French. So every time we have to buy clothes, we have to juggle a little bit between 5 different size numbers. And okay, this is like the sockets. We would probably never fix that, but at least there is a nice table in your clothes. So European standardization is obviously funded on WTO principles: coherent, transparency, openness, consensus, voluntary, independent from social interest, and efficiency, and supports the single market by eliminating technical barriers to trade and facilitating the free movement of goods and services. And as our colleague from Intel said before, Rebecca, she was absolutely right that standards actually are big facilitators of global trade and development for the European industry and non-European industry. And in the little box, you can see that we have about 3,600 harmonized standards. That means standards that are supporting harmonization legislation, CE marking legislation. And she can rest assured, because the Commission has no intention whatsoever to draft technical common specifications, because we don't have the time, we don't have the money, and we don't have the resources and the experience to be able to do that. But it's a sort of a stick that can be shown whenever the rest of the EU is not following suit. So technical rules, basically technical requirements can be directly referenced in legislation, like it is for the car sector, for example. But in Europe, we usually try to go for the second option, which is to leave the technical specification that has to be evolving with the technology to the standardizers, while the European legislation fix the essential requirements that are mandatory, but that should be technology independent and also basically safeguard the safety, the environment of citizens. So standards are not legislation, and this in Europe is very clear, because we know that, for example, in many other, well, actually almost in all the other parts of the world, standards are quoted directly in legislation and they become part of the legislation, so they become mandatory. So whenever the standard changes, the legislation needs to change. So far, not many partners have followed the EU in this path. However, I know for a certainty that Brazil is starting to follow this idea of separating standards and legislation. And on the other side, legislation is mandatory, is decided by the regulators, and sets requirements for the protection. So they are basically standards and legislation in the EU are very much complementary. And this is what also the person from Intel was Rebecca was referring before. In the old days, it was very easy. ISO, IC, ITU, Sensen and Canetzi, and that was about it. And then now we have a whole completely different scene. Okay, I only have 5 minutes. Okay, then I will have to go quicker. The standardization package basically was published in 1.5 years ago almost. And basically it contains the standardization strategy, a commission proposal for some technical amendment to regulation 1025, a report on the implementation of the same regulation to the Parliament and Council, and the annual Union Work Programme for Standardization, which will be published, I think, very soon because we are doing some final tweaking inside. Then the five pillars of the standardization strategy are the priority setting and speed. And this is to be tackled by several means that we will quickly see later. A good governance, which took to the revision of the 1025-1012. On the geopolitics of standardization, because in Europe we've been quite complacent and quite sitting on our successes without thinking that standardization in the meantime has changed a lot. It's been used as political tool by many of our partners and competitors. Then we also in Europe we are very good at doing research, but then we leave the innovation to the others. So this is something that we should fix. So we should try to pin standardization to innovation as quickly as possible and as fastly as possible. And then we also have a very big gap in educations and skill on standards. We know, for example, that for China, standards is a path that leads to very good job. In Europe, many companies has just divested on standardization, and also education is the same thing. So we would like to push the button and have a little bit more focus on educational standards also in Europe. So going through the different things. So for a priority setting, we have basically we are trying to fix together with Sensenelec and ETSI the main problems that lead to too slow adoption of the things. And we also have set up quite a few figures that we'll see quickly later on, which are the high-level forum, which is a very big organization that will lead CEOs of companies and high-level representatives of associations and all that, to sort of try to work together to get some good result. Good governance. I think that the explanation given by Rebecca was more than enough, so I will not focus on that more than it is necessary. And as I said, the geopolitics of standardization, which is something that also was explained by Rebecca, with trying to focus and organize and coordinate between European players at international level. And then within the Commission, we have the Chief Standardization Officer, which is a person, which is our Deputy Director General, Maide Rutte, in DG GROW, who basically responds and makes aware of European standardization issue all around. We have the Excellence Hub, which is something that we always had, but never so organized, and is basically colleagues in the Commission that deals somehow with standardization. And the high-level forum, which is, as I said, this very horizontal structure. And I'm happy to say that both for the Excellence Hub and the high-level forum, we have in the room the two people that in my unit to deal with that. There. So I will not go I'll go very quickly on this, because basically it is this amendment to the regulation where we ask the Sensenelec and ETSI to adjust their governance method. And I must say, so far so good. We don't have any problems. And well, I arrived even a bit too quickly, but if you cannot sleep at night, that is our website, and there you can find everything and more you would like to know about European standardization. Thanks a lot.